Good evening. It is a little after 7 o'clock on Tuesday, June 10th, 2025. Call this meeting of the Rossmoor Community Services District Board of Directors to order. Can we get a roll call, please?
This is roll call. Director Maynard?
Here.
Director Shade?
Here.
Director Remne?
Present.
Director DeMarco?
Here.
President Searles?
Here.
All present.
And to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, Director Shade.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Alrighty. On our agenda, first item is 4 presentations of the California Highway Patrol. I don't believe Officer Valdovinos is here yet.
I haven't seen him.
So we'll go ahead and move on. B, additions to the agenda. There are none. Public forum. Any person may address the Board of Directors at this time upon any subject within the jurisdiction of the Rossmoor Community Services District. However, any matter that requires action may be referred to staff at the discretion of the board for report and action at the time of a subsequent board meeting. Speakers are limited to 3 minutes per item with 9 minutes cumulative for the entire meeting. I have 2 cards, but those are as to agenda items, so we'll wait until those items are called on the agenda. Are there any other speakers that wish to be heard at this time? Alrighty. Moving on to reports to the board. Item D1, a report of the Budget Committee regarding fiscal year 2025-2026 preliminary budget and set date of public hearing. Ms. Landers, would you like to introduce?
I'm not sure is this on? It sounds like it is. Okay, good. Thank you very much, Board President. I appreciate that. Yes, so this is a preliminary budget for the review of the board that was reviewed by the Budget Committee, comprised of Marianne Renee and Tony DeMarco, our board members. And what's being presented has unanimous consent of the 2 of them. There are a few changes from what was presented to them that's called out in the board report. What I'd like to do, if it's okay with you, though, is have Joshua Byram, who is with Platinum Strategies, who's prepared this with me, walk you through this. And if you would like, President Searles, we could stop for questions, or what's your pleasure? Do you want him to go through it, or should we stop as you have questions?
Let's have Josh do an overall presentation. We have one resident who wishes to speak. We'll ask that resident to come up after that so that they may pose their question, and then we might be able to answer it through the further discussion. So go ahead, Josh.
Gone through the committee as a unanimous decision, and it's here.
Mike, up. There you go.
It's here for your purview to review the budget. So I'm going to go through the budget. If you do have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as we go along. I'm going to cover the first item, which is attachment 1, which is the salary plan. So what we have done during this fiscal year is included a line for the general manager as well as the current acting interim general manager. One of the items changed at the committee is we had allocated Mrs. Lander's contract for the full duration of the year. But based off the committee's suggestion, as that is a 6-month contract, we decided to allocate and go through the remainder of her contract and then look as a total of $130,000 for the total contract of both the interim and general manager's contract, understanding that you would be selecting potentially a new one or going out for that. So when you look at the general manager and the interim general manager, the annual budget of $74,500 for the GM and $55,500 for interim, does have that slated as $130,000 in total, as it is currently unknown. We did allocate a 3% cost of living increase into the current salaries. Although that has not gone to the Personnel Committee, we do like to anticipate potential increases in all of our expenses, and so that's consistent with current CPI. Going on to the next page, which is the deferred compensation match. We do have a 3% deferred compensation, showing those employees actively in there, and that general manager is a 6% increase for their respective contract. Which would lead us to attachment 2, and this is going to be the summary of the budget. I'll go through the majority of the line items in detail, but what we're showing currently is a change in the 25-26 fiscal year, a change in fund balance of $10,530, so showing an increase. Now, I am aware that the board did see this budget summary back in April, I believe it was, as a preliminary, and some of those changes that have occurred since then are to include $53,800 roughly in project costs, the new general manager's contract. We did remove some increases in certain salaries, so that actually added back into the net, as well as when reviewing the budget, we'll talk about it more later, but our revenues.
It's not working now. It
Just
was.
hold, we'll get
Probably-
them,
probably
get another
battery
mic.
ran out.
We've had issues with this.
Loud. All right. Oh, perfect. So the summary budget, I'm not sure where I cut off, so we'll start all over. The summary budget that was presented as an initial budget was around $92,000. The changes that have occurred is we did include project costs of a little over $53,000. The new general manager contract and potential salary for that general manager, as well as we took out potential increase in a couple positions that were higher than the 3%, as well as we took a look at our permits and fees. There was actually a formula error, so that actually, when we revised the permits and fees, that increased $14,000. So again, we are looking at a change in fund balance, currently of $10,000, showing a positive change in fund balance for the 25-26 fiscal year. Going on to the next page, our revenues. And the way we've allocated and budgeted our revenues is our property taxes are budgeted at 3.5%. Now, as always, we do budget this quite conservatively. When we took a look at the property taxes over the last few years, the mean for property taxes was around 4.3, 4.4%. So obviously we are very conservative in that approach, not understanding where this current climate and economy are going to go. But Rossmoor has actually exceeded the general county increase, which is quite amazing for the Rossmoor community. So that would be both property taxes as well as the street light assessment. We don't anticipate any increase in interest or not allocating any additional funds to interest, as again, the unknown certainty of the current economic climate. So we're being conservative with that at $30,000. Lastly, what we're looking at is permit and rental fees, anticipating a potential 5% increase in fees for the next fiscal year, which I do understand still does need to be discussed at the board level, but that's what we're looking at for the budget as far as the permits and rental fees. and that would be the majority of our revenues. Now looking at our Department 10, Administrative Services, when we anticipate increased expenditures, we do take a look at what is currently active as far as CPI, so the cost of living increase. And that is right around 3%, so that's what we've estimated increases is going to be 3% for the majority of our expenditures. Now, I will cover a few different line items throughout the budget to explain those line items that are not 3%. The first one being medical insurance, which is under salaries and benefits, and 3/4 of the way down in that, we're anticipating a 5% increase, which is in conjunction with what we've received in past increases for medical insurance. On our operations and maintenance line, so that's the next big category, that first line, insurance liability. We're actually projecting, and not even projecting, we've gotten notice from CJPIA, we're looking at a 17.7% increase in our property fees, or liability fees. And I think almost every single entity I'm working with, whether that's CJPIA, Aqua, there's one more, but they're all seeing quite a large number of increases in fees, primarily just due to the state of California with insurance companies needing to manage their services. Now, typically with the JPIA, it is a risked pool, so what we do is we devote our money as well as a bunch of other districts, and so it spreads the costs, not allocating that strictly for us, but it's in a giant pool that does reduce the potentials if we were to go out on our own. We do have the televised meeting costs, which is around 4 down, and we actually just renegotiated our contract with Tripepi. One of the things during COVID is we had to increase that contract to have 2 staff members here, primarily to run the meeting, as well as the Zoom. Well, that's no longer needed, so what it's going to do is reduce it to 1 person, which is why we have a reduction in those fees.
Can I just jump in for a minute? We put an amount in the budget for the video for the board meeting, but you will have an item in front of you regarding an extension of the Tripepi contract. So that dollar amount that's in the budget is separate from an approval. You're not automatically approving Tripepi with a budget approval. I just wanted to clarify that.
And then, and thank you for clarifying that. And in the operations and maintenance, the last line item, elections, we do reduce that. Typically, the only time we do elections is when there is a current seat up, which is every 2 years, so it's 1 year on, 1 year off. Under contract services, the other professional services does increase a bit more than that 3% stated, and that's due to payroll fees of 5%, IT fees of 8%, and we have added an additional $5,000 to develop salary schedules for the district. And then going on to the recreation budget, that does increase quite a bit to $108,000. Not guaranteed that we would do all the services, but one of the requests of the committee was an actual breakdown. So that is included as one of the last items of the budget packet, which does include funding for a senior club, farmers market entertainment, and Shakespeare that was not previously performed or budgeted for in the prior fiscal year.
And just to help you locate that page, it's page 25 of that item.
As far as Rossmoor Park, Department 30, no real changes to discuss. We just had increased everything at the 3% marker, as stated earlier. Our Montecito Center, Department 40, does include $15,000 for capital expenditures for the resurfacing, the exterior painting and parking lot resurfacing. So that's $15,000 for that item, increasing from 0. The Rush Park, Department 50, most items staying within that 3%, with the exception of the building and improvements, and what we've added to the budget from the projects committee, or CIP committee, sorry. You guys have a lot of committees. We have the exterior electrical panel for $6,750, as well as the playground rubberized surfacing replacement at $30,500. The remainder of the budget does increase. Well, actually, nope, never mind. The street lighting, Department 60, does increase 3%. Department 70, street sweeping, we do have budgeted an increase of 5% for that. But that one is what I call a pass-through cost, because whatever we get charged for that, we actually get reimbursed by the county for that. So essentially, there's no real net impact in that increase in fees. And that's as a service to the county so that they don't have to drive their street sweepers all the way down there. We fund that, they reimburse us instead of having to spend their equipment and manpower to perform the street sweeping services. And there is no change in Department 80 and Department 90 from that. Obviously, a 3% increase in fees for that. And then on page 24, we do have a change in fund balance, just to show the directors how that has changed over the years, just from 5 years ago to now, showing a healthy fund balance, projecting at the end of 24-25 to be $1,970,000, roughly $3,000. And then that last page again, page 25, as Ms. Landers said, was the events budget for the community events. And that does conclude the presentation I've prepared. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have, or if you would like to open it up to the public, I'll take direction from that.
We'll take public comment at this point.
Okay.
I have one card for Konya Vivanti. Welcome.
Thank you. A couple things. One, a suggestion. For those of us who are in the audience and those who are watching on Zoom during the budget presentation, it would have been nice to have it a PowerPoint so we can kind of follow along. Not everyone has it printed or has the full agenda. So that's just a suggestion moving forward when there's a presentation like this. It would just be helpful and nice for everyone concerned to see. My question or my concern is the 3% COLA for employees. I think the employees deserve a 3% COLA increase. My concern is that the new interim GM is also going to get a 3%, and they just started. So, it concerns me about that. So I just want to bring that comment forward. So she hasn't been here a month or just over a month to get the 3% on July 1st with the new fiscal year.
Thank you. Any other public comments at this time? Thank you. Do you want to go ahead, Maureen? Yes. Yeah, no worries.
First of all, thank you for breaking out the special events and how much everything cost. The $10,500 for the senior club, and I'm sorry, Mary Ann, I'm looking at you because you seem to know what that was about at the budget meeting. Can you tell us what you're planning on doing with that? Oh, you can't respond. We would like to, I would like to know the $10,500, what this new senior club is all about. Other than that, I thought Josh did a great job in expanding the budget and clarifying it for those of us from the public that had questions about it the night of. So, thank you.
Josh, did you have anything further, or should we have the committee address? at this time?
Nothing further. I'm happy to answer any questions that the committee would like to bring up or that the board members have.
All right, we'll go ahead and have the committee speak on this as well. Director Rimney and then Director DeMarco.
Thank you, Ms. Waters. In terms of the senior club and the plans for it, that would really be up to the administration and the general manager in terms of what the specifics are in that. My comments were to the point of seniors have been wanting services, they have been increasing, and what they expand in and what they do, that is a suggestion and recommendation and would be up to the general manager.
Did you have any other comments in general for the committee's presentation?
Sure, yeah. So I hope the board read page 27 to 29, because those were the committee's changes and questions, that the main topics that we wanted clarified, and also just explained to the board, to the residents. But with that, Josh, I have a question. So and I think, yeah, because I'm going off my notes. So, Director Rimney and I agreed on recommending to the board a 3% COLA for the
Yes.
employees. It did not include a 3% COLA for the interim contract, nor did it, we just did a number at 130 prorated for the remainder of the year, correct?
What I included in the budget was there was a 3% for the interim general manager, and then that.
Okay, so so it was the remainder of the contract plus a 3%,
Correct.
starting at July 1st?
July 1st.
Okay.
Going through the terms of the contract, and then once that states, we allocated $130,000.
And
which
what
was-
what number is that for the, what's that number? Let me.
What the 3% COLA?
Yeah, just, so that number is,
It's going to be the $67.31.
so I see interim general manager, 2526, 55,500.
Yes,
That's
correct.
it?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Without that, what is it without that? 50,000?
No, I think it was only 1,000 or two, I believe it was
Okay.
$2,000 difference if you
Okay.
add the COLA or not.
All right, so the other thing that the committee did was separate interim general manager line item with general manager line item. And we just felt that since it's an interim contractual contract, it should be separated out. And then we came up with just a number, a placeholder of 130,000 for the remainder of the year. So I think it's not 6 months because it's starting after a month, so it's like 4 months and some days, right?
Correct, yes.
So it's, the 8 months, the remainder 8 months, so it's only the 74. That's why you see 74,500. Okay, so that's one thing that we also recommended, just to do that split. And again, it's just a placeholder. We don't know what's going to happen for the rest of the year. Street lighting, a 5% in.
The street lighting was in the committee, budgeted at 5%. However, I could not find any justification for that 5%, so that was brought down to the 3%
Okay.
cost of living.
And that's the,
Clarification, 5% increase in revenue or
Yeah,
5%
I was just gonna ask.
increase in cost?
Costs.
Costs.
okay, so
And the
cost.
expenditures, yes.
Increased 3% from last year. The revenue, did we increase that like we did the property taxes?
We did, yes, at
Okay,
3.5.
3.5?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So 3.5.
Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Okay, wait a minute. So we also asked, there was a quite a large increase, and Josh went over it. And there's a page in in our budget, page 25, that Ms. Landers referred to, where it just breaks everything down. Instead of just having a line item of $107,925, it breaks down the Family Festival, Winter Festival, all of this stuff. Okay. I want to point out that this board agreed to fund Shakespeare in the Park for this summer, even though it's in the 25-26, we paid for it in this summer's in 24-25 revenue or expenditures. It's in our budget again I think for 26-27, okay, for the next fiscal year, because it comes in the summer, right? Okay, so I don't know. My opinion is, I don't know if we should do that. The other thing, too, I want to point out is last month when you saw the budget, or when we were in the committee and we saw the budget, it had a negative. We did not have a balanced budget. Okay, so when we started our meeting, we were in the whole $69,420. So we reduced two of the items in the capital improvements, and we took them out of the budget, and we suggest that we look at them mid-year and see if we still want to fund those. And that's the running the conduit for our events at the stage, and it's the water stations, okay, which was another $24,000. So we took both of those out. How did we get, because what we got down to is, instead of minus 69,000, we got to where we're positive 10, that 10,530, correct, Josh?
Yes, and thank you
Okay.
for that clarification.
What were the, you had made, it was just a typo, that 19,000, this is in our committee one. Remember, you had doubled it, right?
Absolutely,
Okay,
yes.
That's right. So really, it wasn't 69, it's more like 50, because we've had
Correct, yes.
we had a little error, or just a little typo.
Thank you, error in your favor.
So in the committee, we were minus 50,000. So we made some adjustments to CIP. By splitting the GM, we reduced that budgetary item, 14,000?
$10,000.
10,000, okay. So I just want to let the board know that's the adjustments from the last budget, that we kind of just fine-tuned these numbers, took a couple things out. Let me see if there's any 10%. I don't know. We also discussed that there is Ms. Landers added just a placeholder, $5,000 to assess our, to perhaps, based on the board's action, assess our employees'
Salary schedule.
salary schedule, thank you. And I guess so there's a $5,000 placeholder there. I have an opinion on that I don't think we need to spend $5,000 on it, but we can we can talk about that later. But there is $5,000 in there. So I wanted to bring your attention. There's a couple little $5,000 that where we could reduce this a little more, or we can just leave it the way it is and proceed and see what where the year takes us. Because again, these are just placeholders. But I think that I did not like a negative budget when I saw it. So those are the main points, unless I'm forgetting something. Director Remne, did I forget anything?
No, I think it's well covered, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'll pass this along to the board for comments, but I first want to say the attachment 5 that you discussed at page 27 to 29 is phenomenal. Thank you to the committee, Ms. Landers, Carolyn, and thank you to the community, because I know there was community involvement during this meeting and the prior meeting, and just giving input. Thank you, Josh. That summary of those 3 pages is great. With that, Director Maynard, any questions for the committee of Josh, Ms. Landers?
Yeah. Want to first thank you for bringing a balanced budget. A negative budget would have been a very hard starting point, so thanks for all the work leading here. I did not get to study this as much. I'll probably mention it many times tonight, but this past weekend I got to walk my daughter down the aisle. Just got home yesterday. It was out in San Diego County, a destination wedding, so I have not studied this as normally as much as I would. But first question is on the electrical panel. The capital equipments, if we're going to put off running conduit for a stage, does the panel estimate include the improved amperage for that future project?
Maybe?
No, it does.
For sure.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, I know this is a
It's-
first reading. I would like to see that next meeting just to be safe.
Sure.
Great question.
I don't know if I don't feel like my mic is, it's on?
No, we
Okay,
can.
good. Yeah, it's anticipating the later project, which is in the field, and if you, I know it's laid out on page 9 as project number 4, Rush Park exterior conduit to field. So this is the first piece to get ready for that addition.
Good, I just want assurances next time we vote on this to show here's our current amperage, we need a new board, and that the amperage is going to include a future conduit project. I'd hate to put in an obsolete board 2 years later or whenever it is. So that was my first question. Next question is for the committee. Tony, you mentioned that there's a few $5,000 chunks within this budget. How
Yeah.
many? 10 of them? 5
No,
of them? I
no,
mean,
not,
what's the
cer-
concern?
certainly not 10. There's the one placeholder I'd mentioned, there's, if we want to continue to fund Shakespeare in the Park for $5,000, there's that. There is the interim GM contract, okay, is a 6-month contract that has some perks in it that are not, well, one of them goes through, well, no, none of them go through the year. So I believe those were included in our budget, okay? So if those don't continue, then we're going to save money off the budget. In terms of deferment, in terms of medical insurance, in terms of all those other perks, okay? Those are included. All we did was adjust the
Salary.
We just
salaries.
adjusted the salaries.
Just the
yes.
salary.
Just the salaries.
2 separate interim.
Correct, but we left
ongoing.
the majority of the other contract items
Throughout
in
the
the
year.
budget,
Okay.
just as he said, some type of placeholder.
And I'm going to guess,
That's weird to have one, you have the delineation, but yet you have the other spread like peanut butter. That's a little interesting to me.
It is a little interesting. One of the reason we took that approach is understanding that the new general manager would most likely have medical benefits. So not understanding where that would be, we did leave the Ms. Landers' contract for medical benefits in there. So we did leave that. Actually, the taxes, I believe, did get adjusted for that. But we did leave the 6% deferred. We could reduce that, but it was quite minimal when you look at the 6 to 3%.
Now, my next question is, if we indeed have already paid for the Shakespeare, like one fiscal before the fiscal, that makes sense. Why is it in the budget? Since we've already paid last year, or I'm sorry, the year that we're currently in, we start a whole new January. They're paid in full, correct?
yeah, they're paid in full for 26.
So why do we have to pay for it again?
25.
in the same fiscal that they're actually.
We do not have to pay for it again. We're not under any
Yeah,
obligation
I'm
to
not
pay for
saying
it.
cancel the program, I'm just saying it's double dipping if we've already paid for something, and we're putting what we've already paid for in the budget again.
What,
That doesn't make sense.
the way I see it is, we are putting in a placeholder in our budget to pay for Shakespeare in the Park in the future, okay? Because they haven't come asking for it for next year. In fact, I don't even remember how they approach us, because remember, some years we didn't pay anything.
Right.
But last year, they approached us, and this board said, okay, we'll donate $5,000. So,
And we made that donation 6 months in
no,
advance?
we just made it last month.
Okay.
We approved it a few months ago, but we just wrote the check. It's actually in our expenditures,
Right.
okay, for last month, might even be May. So, why is it in there? I don't know. I believe either Mr. Mendoza put it in, Ms. Landers put it in, and that was the increase to $107,925. That's part of that increase. But it's other increases too. Again, so it's a placeholder. If we want to take it out, we can take it out and we can talk about it at the end of the year and see how it goes. I don't have a
Yeah, I
problem.
don't want to go sideways on this because, off topic, but like we paid in advance, because the last few years we haven't paid. So I didn't realize we had to pay 2-3 months in advance of the event, that's all. And we're paying in one fiscal year for the benefit of a future fiscal year.
I think
That seems
that-
a little off budget.
I think the issue is because the item happens in June or July. It's sitting on the middle of a fiscal year, one way or the other. So
Okay.
you presumably are going to pay for it in May if it happens in June. You might get to pay for it in June if it happens in July. So you don't know when they're scheduling for next year yet, because we didn't even know this year. We had 3 possible weekends, and I believe
Okay.
2 of them were in fiscal year 24-25, and one of them, which is the one we chose, ended up being in 25-26 fiscal year, the actual performance.
Right.
But we, of course, are donating in advance of the performance, so we don't time that. So I think we have to put it in the budget to be a placeholder in advance of it, because the cost may be incurred in fiscal year 25-26, even if the performance happens in 26-27.
But you listen,
It-
we didn't
and
have
again,
it in
it's
the
not
budget
set.
last year, though.
Right.
So
It was an
Here-
unbudgeted
Here's
item.
the thing that the board, and again, it's only 5,000, but it's only 5,000, it's 5,000, okay? Is you put a placeholder in, the assumption is you're going to spend the money for it, okay? So again, we did not have it last year, they came and asked, and we paid for it last year. If I didn't want to dive and deliberate on the Shakespeare, and again, my opinion is, to me, it's a we don't know their financials, we don't know too much about them, we don't know what money it makes. They get funded by boards of supervisors, like the LA Board of Supervisors, so I don't know if we should be funding Shakespeare in the Park. They have other local ones around. It's not like we're going to, take away anything from our residents. That's just my personal opinion. But again, it's up to you guys. If you want to put the placeholder in, you're telling them that we're going to write you a check for $5,000, though. I think, instead of removing it and saying, hey, let them come back, in February and March and ask us again. See how much money we have.
Can I provide a little clarification? Nothing that's been said is wrong, but just to amplify, the funds were not budgeted in 24-25. It was really, as the board president indicated, so it was added here for the 25-26 budget, but the bill arrived prior to the end of this fiscal year, so it's been paid. So the discussion that you're having is totally relevant, but I just wanted to explain the budgeting aspect of it.
And so that's a good point, because when we made that, the decision, what's what's our end of the year, 24, 25? What did the district make, revenues over expenditures?
The 24-25, we're projecting 37,500.
Okay. Which to me is low. We usually have 100 grand left. Now, we did some capital improvements, though.
And that was a decent amount of
Yeah.
what caused that decrease from what it was initially is the adjustments, because initially you were at 74,000, but we did add some projects at the
Yeah.
end of the year.
So really, we were at 74, which is what we've done in the past, where we get the money and then, oh, we got extra money, we're going to do some capital improvements. So again, we're pretty much, 10,000, we're pretty much even. We're usually way up.
So just remind me, the budget that's submitted for our review, and we're going to review it again, not a shortfall. What is the surplus at the end of next fiscal?
At the end of 25-26, we're looking a little over $10,000.
Oh, that's it. Okay.
That is it, but as a reminder to the board, our property tax revenues are
Yeah.
pretty
That's your
conservative,
record.
as the board always knows,
Yeah.
but
We've always been conservative.
We
there is
don't
a little
count on
wiggle
that.
in there.
Yeah, we just don't like surprises, and
Exactly.
cushion of 10,000 is a concern.
Understood.
And can I jump in for also a minute? I just want to make sure that you have a chance to look at page 30, which is the calendar that you've already approved, and you could see where we are on the calendar. And so, yes, to your question, the next meeting, we are going to be publicizing as a public hearing, and you can decide if you want to have 2 or 1 public hearings. Under our policy, it provides the opportunity for 2, which would bring us to April for a final budget, which is consistent, August, it's consistent with our policy that we could have our final budget passed in August. But you could speed it up if you decide to only do 1 public hearing, which you have the option to decide.
Okay.
Director Maynard, did you have any further questions?
Not a question, but a comment is, I love the idea that there's going to be more activity for seniors. I've always felt that we needed balance between youth sports and other things. But 10,500 for something we've never done just seems like an excessive amount for starting a program that has no definition, but has a big budget of 10,500. So I am very concerned about that as well. That's it for now.
Director Shade?
I want to thank you for doing that page 27 through 29 as well. That's super helpful, and I love looking at this line by line for the year gone by. It's very handy to look at that. A lot of my questions have already been answered. You guys have done a great job of just going through these, which is fantastic. I do like the idea of having the senior programs, and it's something that we've been in talks with on what we're going to do and, what those are going to look like. And it's an exciting program for our seniors, and I think it is going to take off with all the things that we're going to offer. So I think that will pay for itself in the long run with the fees and whatnot that we're going to be implementing. So I think it's going to look great, and I'm excited for it.
I just want to say thank you. The one item I noticed was the overall budget for Rossmoor Park, and I wanted to, clarify for people who didn't see the note about the grant being included in last year's budget and it not being in the budget for this year for the canopy. And so while the Rossmoor Park budget looks lower, it's pretty much the same with the normal increases. The difference is there's not a large chunk there from that grant for the canopy. And so I just want to make sure everyone understands when they're reading it and they say, oh no, we took a lot of money out of Rossmoor Park again. That's not the case. And that, the expenditures for Rossmoor Park are growing the same as they are at Rush Park and Montecito, aside from capital improvement.
Absolutely.
President, you made me remember that there was one really piece of good news that we meant to say as part of our budget discussion. and if you don't mind, I'll mention it now. Today, we received our FEMA check for just under, barely, $20,000. So it's not included here because we didn't know when that was going to happen, and I think probably Joe Mendoza and staff worked really hard to get that money, and it just has come in. It doesn't show in our budget because it would have been in the 12-month projection, but we couldn't project that it would be in there. So it's just not here right now, but just know we have that.
Thank you. And thank you again to staff and Mr. Mendoza for seeing that through. I know that was more than a year plus, 2 years possibly, of going through that. So thank you. I don't have anything further. I don't believe we have any action other than the calendar to look at for the budget.
Can I ask one more question?
Yes,
Just,
for sure.
So, and maybe staff can answer this, Carolyn can answer this. How did we, what's your recollection on the senior club being 10,500? Like, why wasn't it just 10,000? Why wasn't it, what is that program? What is the, I mean, I don't know, Ms. Landers, if you even know, but Carolyn, I'm sure, was involved in it.
Yeah, now would be a good time to defer to Chris since he's sitting in the back and he's highly involved in coordinating all those.
Okay.
But one of the biggest things that we're adding is our partnership with the UCI Medical Center.
Okay.
And they are sending out flyers to a 5-mile radius. I'm getting them at my home in Long Beach to come here for their conferences, and it draws a lot people.
Okay,
And we
so-
provide the snacks and beverages
So what's
and stuff
what's
like
our cost? So the 10,000, as that relates to the 10,500. So break that down for us.
that. Well, we hold those twice a month.
Okay.
So we're having 24 instances of the senior club,
Okay, so we're having 24
24 senior club events.
club events, okay. And staff and
Snacks.
snacks and,
Yeah.
okay. Anything else? So it's those, anything under this 10,500 that you're seeing that's going to cost us?
I don't have Chris's breakout in front of me, but
Chris?
you want to come up, Chris?
Can we do this? I mean, I don't know if we want to put Chris on the spot. I'm happy for us to come back
Okay.
at the hearing with that additional information, just as we came back with information that the committee had asked for in this document to provide breakouts of additional costs for each recreational area. If you would allow us to do that for you at the next meeting, we can make sure that it's taken care of very professionally for you.
All right, no, that'd be fine. I mean, so, I mean, my point, and I know people have come up and talked and asked about this at our budget meeting. You know, we've lived through the family festivals, we know what that is, the winter festival, it's just these new ones, the senior club, do some breakdown, like just kind of, just give us a little more detail. And, you know, we know the farmer's market, 3,200 is just add-ons for the farmer's market, like we've had.
Entertainment.
Entertainment, okay. And then we know Shakespeare, what we're going to get for that. Okay, all right, very good.
Thank you. And thank you, Josh. We'll carry this forward to our next board meeting for the first reading. In the meantime, there will be the publication of that meeting in the local papers. So,
And since we're on the subject, I
Yes.
think it was a very good point that we had copies of the budget here, right? We have copies? Okay, so we're going to have copies of the budget next month? Okay,
For the public hearing, yes.
all right. Yeah, and, okay,
Well, I think it was a great idea that she came up with. We've got screens.
yeah.
When someone says, hey, go to page 25, put page 25 on our screen,
Yeah.
let everyone see it.
That's probably
We'll do it.
All
I
right.
think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
thank you.
It'll be behind you, but you'll be able to see that.
Yeah.
But it'll be really for the public.
yeah.
Okay, good.
Oh, and Josh, you get to adjust our estimate to close with an extra 20,000, so we'll be at 55.
Yeah,
So let's see
Much
that
better.
next meeting.
excellent.
All righty. Moving on to item E, the consent calendar. Consent items are expected to be routine and non-controversial to be acted upon by the Board of Directors at one time. If any board member requests that an item be removed from the consent calendar, it shall be removed by the President so that it may be acted upon separately. We have 3 items on the consent calendar. Does any board member wish to have any item pulled from the consent calendar?
I move approval.
A second?
All those in favor, say aye.
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 All those opposed, say nay. Hearing none, thank you. Public hearings, none. Moving on to item G1, resolution number 25-06-10-01, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District approving the application for the land and water conservation funding of the Rossmoor Park Playground Improvement Project. Ms. Landers, would you like to present?
Thank you. Yes, so this was an item that was discussed at the last board meeting, but there were some questions, and there was also a request that we provide documentation of everything that was referenced in the resolution. So it's pretty thick, but, you know, and even though you might have seen some of it before, I think it's totally appropriate if you're going to be approving a resolution to see it all in one place. So what the goal is to request approximately $600,000 in a grant fund for demolition of the existing Rossmoor Park playgrounds, in addition to the rubberized surface throughout the playground, and the purchase and installation of new playground equipment. The equipment that's there is really beyond its useful life, and it's at a point where it really warrants being replaced. The resolution does not lock you in yet. You're not locked in. All it does is it enables us to apply for the grant, and we have to do that by April 5th. We could still change our
April?
minds.
Did you mean April?
I said it again. So sorry. I have
August.
my friend here who is correcting me. I meant August
Okay.
5th. Thank you, Carolyn. And we have a lot of work to do to make sure that we're ready. If you were to approve the resolution, the next step would really be for us to engage the public, to make sure that we understand what their interest would be for the concept of the park. So there is something that you have here, but it's not the actual playground equipment. It's just a concept that shows what we could do to meet ADA requirements. So if the resolution, again, I want to just reemphasize, doesn't bind you. It just enables us to start moving forward to see if this is something that we really want to do. And I know that there are questions with matching funds, and we would want to break up how we do this so that we don't have a cash flow issue, and that we're comfortable with how we proceed. But if we could get this grant, it would be pretty amazing. Not sure how we would rank with others for it, but I think it's worth trying to get it. So with that, I'm not going to, unless you have specific questions, I don't really have much more to add.
Director DeMarco.
If we're going to go to the public, I mean, there's pictures in here, so I went through every single page, and it's quite long, these concept drawings and stuff like that. And it's probably in here, but do we know what's the examples that are put in here? What's the life expectancy of this? Do we know? And if you don't know, we'd love to find out.
I could tell you, I just today had a conversation with one of the manufacturers of our park equipment, and I did ask, what is life expectancy? So I could tell you what I was told. It used to be considered 15 years. Now it's considered, under current standards, to be 20. However, equipment does last longer if it's well maintained.
Yeah.
So it's possible that it could be beyond 20 years, but that's pretty much what is looked at as the life expectancy.
Okay. And our current Rossmoor play area is
Yeah.
Do we, I know we have
It's
it
in
written
here.
down.
I saw it, I think it's on page 69. And it says it was installed over 20 years ago, and
Okay.
at least 5 years have passed the useful life of 15 years. So back to when it was installed, it would have been 15 years. We're now at 20. But more importantly, I think, the amount of money that we're spending on maintenance is part of the problem. So, in contrast, the two playground structures at Rush Park are about, I think it was 2008 that they were installed, so they're approaching 20 years, but they're in really good shape. So that's the difference. The ones that we have at Rossmoor, I don't know why this is, but they're requiring a lot of maintenance.
These were installed, I want to say 2012. They're not as old as you think.
I just
So-
talked to the installer, and that's what he said. I could be wrong, he
You
could be
are.
wrong. You might have a better memory.
Yeah.
But
Well, I know because I was president when we dedicated it, so I was there.
then I'm really
So-
happy because 20 years would put it at 2032.
So just, just looking at the numbers, for the public, it's the apparatus itself, it's showing at about $187,000, and then it's $309,000 to install it. But that's with concrete and the padding and everything.
Prevailing
So
wages.
it's quite expensive.
It is.
So, the idea of trying to get, so it's $507,000 for a playground in 2025 standards. So try to get half of that paid for, and we bring in the other half. To at least start it and see if we can get the money, I don't have a problem.
All right. Director Renee.
Thank you for your hard work on it. I do support moving forward and putting us in a position for great play areas for all generations.
Director Shade.
Oh, thank you for all this information. I absolutely support moving forward on this as well.
Director Maynard.
Tarquin, have you reviewed this 39, 40-page document and studied it well enough to know where we stand on it, risks? Can't hear you.
So you're discussing the application, correct?
Part of our resolution says we understand the contract and the guidelines set before us.
Yeah.
And I
This-
don't know how
yeah.
many of us have read all 39 pages. I
This
know
is
I haven't.
This is the first time I've been seeing it. I've not been asked to review it.
Well, then I'm not comfortable with this, guys. It's, again, I know you're saying it's not an obligation, but when I look at the resolution, and I look at the words, it says that we have reviewed. Our attorney hasn't even reviewed this. I know I haven't reviewed the 39 pages. Has anyone on the board read the whole thing and studied it? Okay, we have one board member.
If I
Okay,
could,
so
make one further comment.
Yeah.
I was asked by staff, there is a form that needs to be filled out regarding CEQA review. It asks us for some further documents. So in essence, because the form is asking for CEQA, review of the California Environmental Quality Act. So this would be exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act as a minor alteration for existing structures or small structures, right? But if that determination would need to be made by the board, so there's a documentation that they've determined that it is exempt pursuant to the applicable provision of CEQA, and then that could be included in the application packet regarding the CEQA exemption. And then my office would file the notice of determination with the county so that it is exempt, and that would start any statute of limitations running for challenging the project under CEQA.
Okay. I'm just looking at the resolution. Therefore, number one, approve the filing. I'm okay with filing an application. Certifies that the applicant has reviewed, understands, and agrees to the general provisions containing the contract shown. And our attorney hasn't read it. I have, and 4 of the 5 board members haven't read that.
Read the third one.
Agrees to abide by section, huge number, which requires no property acquired or developed with assistance under the section shall.
No,
Kathy?
you know what I meant, Director Maynard?
I'm sorry.
The third whereas. It says, certifies by resolution the approval of the application and the availability of eligible matching funds prior to submission of the application. So if we get the 509,000, we're agreeing to pay 250,000.
If we get it, and
Yeah.
I'm down with that, but what if we don't? Does this commit us to that project?
Oh,
No.
No, it doesn't. I'm sorry.
I just need reassurance. You're asking me to vote on this. So again, I have not read that huge document that says I'm supposed to understand, and neither has our attorney. And I would hate for us to, again, starting an application process, I'm down with that, but a formal resolution with certain terms that are still not understood, I just don't think that's prudent.
So I have been asked by members of this board to confirm exactly that question, and I've gone back to our grant consultant, and I've been assured that this is the submittal of an application that does not bind the board at all to continue in the process if at some point you choose to change your mind. So I don't believe there's anything at this point for Tarquin to review, because all we're doing is submitting an application saying we are interested. And with that application in, it will give me a little bit more of a chance to try to do some grant, to raise money for matching grants from others that might be willing to help us.
Okay, give me a second. If you remove the now therefore line number 2, I'd be okay with it.
I'm sorry, did you ask me a question?
No, I'm just putting it out there. If you guys want me to vote affirmative, I'm requesting to remove line 2. That certifies that the applicant has reviewed, understands, and agrees to the general provisions contained in the contract shown in the general administration guide. If we remove that,
If I may ask the general manager a question. Ms. Lenders, is there any reason this can't come back at the next meeting? Is there a deadline for filing this? What is our filing deadline?
I said April, but I meant August.
August.
It's early August, and in order for us to make sure that we have everything moved forward in a timely fashion, we really need the consent of the board to move forward on this. So again, the
I'm
assurance...
okay with you moving forward. I'm just not okay with the resolution and voting on the resolution.
That's the only way that we can move forward. It's with the resolution being approved by the board.
And Director Maynard, for clarification, the resolution is drafted as part of the grant process. It's actually provided on page 112. It is their required resolution language.
Yeah.
Director Rimney, did you have?
Yeah, I sat in on a lot of the meetings that were involving this because I had the same concerns that you had. And pretty much what this does is this authorizes the general manager and the grant writer to be able to proceed with the next steps of it and put the forms in shape. And with that, it's almost the same resolution that was submitted with Prop 68. And as I recall, Director Nidickman, I believe, asked that very question. And it's the contract that binds you, not the resolution. This is just the affirmation that the board is supportive of moving forward in the process.
Okay. Do you agree with that, Tarquin?
I can either disagree nor disagree since I have not fully reviewed the packet. I'm certainly not saying anyone is wrong. I just have not actually personally reviewed this, so I cannot opine.
This one's better.
It does not bind us to it.
Thank you, Ms. Vivanti. Any further discussion? With that, I would ask for, I believe This is a resolution, so roll call. I move for a vote.
I'll second that.
Second from Director Rimney.
Do we want to, if it makes Director Maynard, I'd love to get a 5-0 vote. If Tarquin finds anything that puts the district in perils, if what not, again, we're just, Ms. Vivante just, she's done these before, but our attorney hasn't read it, so if after our attorney reads it, he is okay with it, that we proceed and we make that little caveat for the motion, so perhaps,
It's contingent on legal review?
yeah.
I'm
And
comfortable with
legal
that.
review, getting back to the President's rules, I've read it. Everything that was stated tonight is factual and true. We're not bound to it. And, he signs off on it, then the motion carries.
The motion would be passed today, subject to that condition, so that if Tarquin were to find
Reads
something...
it tomorrow and he's fine with it. He gets back with the President and President says...
Conditionally approve this? Okay, I'm good with that.
Good with that?
I'm good with that.
All righty. We'll go ahead with the roll call vote then, please.
So roll call vote for conditional approval of resolution number 2506-1001, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District approving the application for the land and water conservation funding of the Rossmoor Park Playground Improvement Project. Director Maynard?
Aye.
Director Shade?
Aye.
Director Remney?
Yes.
Director DeMarco?
Yes.
President Searles?
Aye. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Moving on to item G2, resolution number 25-06-10-02, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District designating certain district officials to transact business with financial institutions which house the district's investments, savings, or other financial accounts. I believe we'll have Ms. Landers present, and maybe Tarquin, you may be asked to assist with the requirements here as well.
Thank you, President. This is really asking for a resolution to update those that are listed as able to conduct business on behalf of Rossmoor. And the reason is that since the last resolution, the district has hired Platinum Strategies as its new district accountant, and that was Joshua Byram, who you just had in front of you, and then also me as the new interim general manager effective May 19th. So what this would do is it would update those documents so that we're able to continue without any problems financially.
And as to Tarquin, there's no conflict with adjusting these based on our current positions, correct?
Sure.
All righty. Director Maynard, any questions?
I'm looking at it right now. I see you in there. I get that. Oh, there's Platinum. Okay, no, I'm good.
Director Shade?
Nope, I'm good.
Director Rimney?
It's good.
Director DeMarco?
Just for clarity, we didn't do one earlier this year when the new officers came in? A resolution?
In January.
Yes,
We did.
We
So
did.
this is just an update from, okay. Yep, no questions.
It's blocking and tackling.
No, perfect, thank you. So I'd move the board approve resolution 25-06-10-02, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District designating certain district officials to transact business with financial institutions which house the district's investments, savings, or other financial accounts.
I'll second that.
And roll call, please.
So roll call vote for the approval of resolution number 2506-1002, a resolution of the Board of Directors of the Rossmoor Community Services District designating certain district officials to transact business with financial institutions which house the district's investments, savings, or other financial accounts. Director Maynard?
Aye.
Director Shade?
Aye.
Director Rimney?
Aye.
Director DeMarco?
Aye.
President Searles?
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item G3, discussion and possible action regarding authorizing the interim general manager to enter into a one-year contract extension with Tripepi Smith and Associates Incorporated for audio, video support and broadcasting services for the Rossmoor Community Services District. Ms. Landers?
Yes, thank you. This item had been brought to the Personnel and Contract Committee, I think it was in April. And the committee at that time was asked if they would recommend to the board an extension of a contract that would otherwise expire and it was, I believe it's a recommendation. I'm not quite sure what was recommended to the committee, I'm sorry, but my recommendation is for a year extension. The committee did ask, however, that we seek comps so that we would know that this price is a reasonable price. And I'll talk about that in a minute. However, what I do want to say to start is it's not a great practice to just keep extending existing contracts without some type of competitive bidding. And so as part of this recommendation to the board, I'm also saying that if you do allow for an extension, because we're kind of at a point where we're at a time, that we would, before the year is up, before the contract is up, do a competitive bid. So I do want to make that commitment because I personally don't like just extending contracts. I don't think it's a good practice. There might be reasons to do it on occasion. Having said that, we did try to look at comps, and Carolyn and I talked to quite a number of different entities, and what we found, and it's on page 156 of the report, that oftentimes cities used in-house staff or volunteers for AV services. Tripepi told me when I spoke to them that if we were to do a new contract, their rates are 5% higher. And then I talked to two other companies that provide these types of services. I don't know if I listed the names here. Thanks. It's Civic Plus and Media Store, and they are listed, I believe, here. And what I'm finding out is that I'm comparing apples to oranges, because Civic Plus, first of all, really does what's now called agenda software, and they have you do your own camera and staff. And then Media Star has cameras that you would place that I think they're called eyes that automatically turn on and off. They're programmed, depending upon who's speaking, to focus that camera on that person. And there's nobody in the back operating them. And so we really weren't able to get real comps, unfortunately. You know, I don't recommend volunteers at this point for our meetings. I think they're too important. But everybody's, the way people are now conducting their meetings and videoing them has changed. And so actually I think that the year is going to be trying to figure out what we might want to look at going forward and how we might want to proceed. So I don't have that information for you yet, only to say that the world is changing around us as to how this is being done. So with that, I do ask that you allow an extension of a year. The price was cut in half, and this is what Mr. Byram started talking about when he talked about the last budget. It was cut from 2 people to 1, so the price was cut to $14,000 from something almost double, because they only have 1 person staffing the cameras now, and plus a couple of extra thousand in case we have another meeting outside of our normal 1 meeting a month. If we have a town hall that we want to video, that we have money budgeted for that as well. So that's, where we are right now. It's a request for an extension, but letting you know that we don't intend to extend another year. We intend to come back having done some type of competitive bidding.
Thank you. Director DeMarco, any questions?
So right now, The change, other than going from 2 to 1, is the functionality is going to be the same for these meetings.
What you will see in terms of functionality is the same.
Okay.
But I do want you to know that some time ago, you stopped doing Zoom meetings, and the second person was no longer needed for that purpose. If that's something that the board wants to reinstate, I think that we should look at that going forward, because there are some benefits potentially, although I don't believe that you really had a lot of people participating. I could be wrong about that, but this does not include personnel for Zoom meetings.
And putting them, I mean, this should probably go back to our committee, but putting them on Zoom, you need to add the second person, most
Correct.
likely. And then the two back there, they're switching back with cameras, right? Manually?
They are, and it's,
Okay.
I know that there are two of them today, but it's normally one. We're not being charged for two. And yes, they are switching back and forth. I actually observed that before the meeting started. They showed me how
No,
that
there's
worked.
normally 2, and our budget was 23,000, and we got it down to 11, so now we're going to lose
14.
one. I don't know which one. Josh, you staying, or what's going on? Which one are we? Okay, all right. But, I mean, we should probably, I mean, it's not a bad price, 11,000 or 14 we're budgeting to have these meetings. But I know that Konya and others have brought up we should be at least recording and taking notes on our committee meetings. So this is probably a bigger thing than this contract. We'll extend this contract, but we should probably give it some more thought as to what the residents want. Do they want it to be Zoomed, and can it be with one person, and what's that cost going to be? But other than that, I'm okay with this contract.
Director Remday?
Again, thanks for your work on that, because I believe that if they're comfortable that it could be covered with one, that's fine, and I think that should we have an occasion where we need a second one, I don't think they would probably be able to accommodate that on a per event basis as opposed to wrapping it into the contract. So I think you've done good some work.
Director Shade?
I agree. I think we can get by with one, and if we have that additional meeting that's needed, that's totally fine. I know that I myself had questioned why it wasn't, our committee meetings weren't recorded or in the past. So, I know I brought that up myself at our committee meetings. It may not have been known or put out there or whatever, but I would like to see that happen as well.
Director Maynard?
I have a question. Currently, all the hardware, the cameras that we have, do we own those, or is that part of this company that they brought and installed them, and a year from now, they disappear?
Ours.
I'm going to look back there for confirmation, but my understanding is those are our cameras.
Okay.
Just not you, right?
I just wanted to confirm. Okay. Okay, that was just my only question. Just like you said, moving forward, I don't know if we need to have the high-tech ones that AI generated doing funky stuff, but we do have infrastructure here. That's good. I believe our church that rents this actually use them too, and they're great people. They can probably even train a staff member of how to go in on a skeleton, and staff do our committee meetings just from a documentation standpoint, but I'm down with the contract. I'm good.
Okay. And Director DeMarco, Ms. Landers and I had actually talked about the idea of the survey at our end-of-the-year resident survey, one of the items being whether Zoom for meetings is something that would be worthwhile or not. Because I did tell her, our participation was low often. We'd have 3-4 people, and whether that justified essentially twice the cost, we could decide as a board, but it'd be nice to have the community's input. So
Yeah, and I
that's
think
a good
that,
point.
I think, it is, technology is changing so fast that it's there might be something out there that is relatively easy for committee meetings and even this to go live, you know. I put down a note, even our website might even be able to accommodate going live or something like that. So I'm just saying that technology is such that we just need to constantly look at enhancements, and even the cameras we installed just a few years ago, I mean, it could be obsolete now or next year or whatever, so yeah, that's good. We should ask the public what they want.
All righty. I believe then we've authorized the general manager to enter go ahead and have a vote just to confirm. All those in favor, say aye. Oh, well, I guess, is there a second?
No, second.
All righty. All those in favor of authorizing the interim general manager to enter into a one-year contract extension with Trepepi Smith and Associates?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, say nay. All righty, thank you. And moving on to item G4, discussion and possible action to adopt revisions to policy number 2160, deferred compensation by the first reading and waiver of second reading pursuant to policy number 1000.40. And I ask Council Tarquin Preziosi to present, please.
Thank you, President Searles. This office recommends that policy number 2160.41, which is the deferred compensation matching program of policy number 2160, be revised specifically, and to do so within one reading pursuant to the provisions of policy number 1000.40, which allows policies to be adopted, introduced and adopted in one reading. The reason that this is coming to the board is because the interim general manager contract approved participation in the deferred matching program, 2160.41. And so in order to be consistent with the board policies, this office is recommending that the board revise policy number 2160.41 to remove the prohibition from the general manager participating in that policy, so that all full-time employees of the district would be eligible to participate in the policies. In addition, the revisions to the policy, while the policy is set for 3% match for all employees, this policy, the revisions of this policy would allow the deferred employer match for the general manager to be set by agreement. And that is the end of my presentation, and I'm available for questions.
All righty. We have one member of the public who wishes to speak. Konya Vivanti. Sorry, Konya. I'm working on it. Welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm concerned that the interim general manager would get 6% deferred comp, whereas the rest of the employees would get 3%. I just have an issue with that.
Konya, can you hold on a second? I think that's the mic that's not working, so we might be...
Why does one mic always not work?
Is it the batteries?
You sure all these mics are ours? They're not you guys's?
They need to be charged, maybe. All right.
Fresh batteries
Again,
every meeting.
I understand the policy of the revision of this policy where it's a 3% deferred employer match. And I think that's perfectly fine. What I do have a problem with is that all the employees are going to get 3% and the interim general manager is going to get 6%. And I just have an issue with that. It should be 3% across the board for all employees. The interim general manager is an employee and should get the same as the rest of the employees. So, I urge, the board to consider that. I don't think it's really fair. The other question I had was in the interim general manager's contract, and going back and looking at it, Section 4J, I know you don't have it in front of you, but it mentions something about the deferred comp and that the district agreed to provide the 6%, notwithstanding any provisions of policy number 2060 to the contrary. What is policy 2060?
That's what we're reviewing tonight.
It's a different number.
What was the policy?
2060.
2160.
No, this is 2160.
2160.
You're looking at tonight, policy number 2160.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, was this a typo in her contract? The number was wrong? What is policy number 2060? That's what it says here.
Oh, 2060? is what you're
Correct.
saying? Okay.
We'll wait for council. Thank you so much. Hold on.
But while he's looking for that, again, I'm opposed to giving the interim general manager 6% versus all the rest of the employees getting 3%.
Thank you.
60 is Jonesy.
Thank you. Yes, that is correct. It's a typo. The intent was 2160,
Instead of 2060.
2060.
Thank you. Director Maynard, any questions for council?
I think it's a slippery slope when all of a sudden we try to push policies. We
Yes,
normally do
it's a
do two readings. Tonight, they're suggesting one. I think that's a slippery slope. The board, as a body, voted to bring in Ms. Landers. Regardless of the vote count, it was the body of the board. I'm not sure, I think good policy is good policy, and you don't take a policy and change it to fit a circumstance. In the field that I'm in, there's a thing called deviation, and we do a deviation report when certain things happen with the FDA and the FTC or what have you. So with this, my comment is we had a good policy. We all worked on the policy of saying that it was 3%, not 6%. We all said that the general manager is excluded. We all agreed on that up until last contract. I don't think we should change our policy. We should just know that we are deviating for policy for this circumstance. And that's where I'm at.
Director Shea.
I'll let our other directors speak before I do.
Director Rimney.
I think I defer to the recommendation of general counsel on it because I like to look at this beyond a single person and more of a practice. And so from that standpoint, I am not one to second guess legal, and with this recommendation, I would support it.
Director DeMarco.
Tarquin, this recommendation is coming about only because of the interim general manager contract, correct?
That is correct, because
Okay.
the language of the contract
All right.
would otherwise deviate from the language of the
So-
policy.
I agree with Director Maynard that our vetted policy that we spent a lot of time on is sound. We deliberated on, you got to work here for at least a year to get the deferred. And we did hire our interim general manager, okay? But I still go back and this sentence says that as long as the board agrees with the contract, any contract, we can deviate away from our policy. So why don't we just come up with a compromise and just pay the interim general manager just what the deferred's going to be so we don't have to change this? Why don't we just pay what the match is going to be in in a salary. So we don't have to change this. Because the policy is sound. 3%, everyone gets 3%. Again, we already agree that it shouldn't be the general manager, but we changed that for what, this time, or, I mean, if we want it 6%, let's change it to 6%, and if we don't want to wait 12 months, then let's not wait for 12 months. We shouldn't have a policy for everyone else and just another one for future individuals. Everyone should be abiding by the policy. So I just want to come up with I'm trying to come up just with something that we all can agree on. In this present state, I'm not going to vote for this. I don't like it. It contradicts the first part. Just because, hey, whatever's in the contract, we can give our employees or one employee 10% deferred if we want to. Well, if we were to do that, let's just change our deferred program then. So, I don't know, but my compromise is just don't change it, and we just come up with a payout of what it's going to be, so we don't have to change our policy. So that's what I have to say about this.
All right. Director Shade?
I'm not sure this is changing our policy because the GM was excluded from this, correct?
Correct.
So I don't understand how that's changing the policy when the GM was never included in this policy to begin with. So on that note, I feel like we get to make the call on what it is that we want to do here.
But that in itself is a change in the policy. Adding someone that we purposely didn't want to have in this policy just 3 or 4 months ago, 2 months ago, whenever it was.
Again, the GM was not included in this policy.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, the GM doesn't get deferred compensation. The policy read, the GM does not get deferred compensation.
So it was, so
The policy all further states that after 12 consecutive months for full-time employment, employee will be fully vested in the employer match. Okay? So that's our policy that we just passed earlier this year. So it just,
Director Shade, anything further?
no.
Okay. I, of course, worked with council in working toward this language. I support it first because the general manager is on an individual contract. It's a different position than the staff is. We don't have individual contracts that we negotiate with each member of staff in the same type of position. We know that because we just went through an idea of compensation where the COLA and all of that. So the position is different. I think I understand the residents' discussion about 3% being for employees. I think that, when you're looking at hiring the manager of the other employees, and again, it's an individual contract, that's a negotiated separate situation. And in this instance, the give and take resulted in a 6% request in their contract, and the board agreed that was where we would fall. To Director DeMarco, as far as just giving a check or compensation straight up, there are significant tax consequences between someone getting paid cash and getting a retirement benefit, and that benefits both the employee and the district because we're not being assessed the same taxes on compensation that's put into a retirement plan, and the same for the employee may not be able to actually take that cash and put it into the retirement if they've already maxed out. So that there is a real issue, and by doing so, and part of our discussion when we set this policy was we wanted to encourage employees, and Mr. Mendoza came forward with this initial policy. It wasn't the board that asked for the policy. It was Mr. Mendoza. The carve-out for the general manager came at Mr. Mendoza's recommendation, not at the board's. So to say that we're, as a board, changing the policy, no, I think we were good stewards for the community that we didn't change the policy that Mr. Mendoza presented to us by including him. That would have cost the district more money. When he didn't ask for it, we didn't give it to him, we did what was right. We're in a different situation where a different general manager has now said, per my contract, an agreement to serve as your general manager, in this case interim, but where it would be is, when we're 4 or 5 months from now, if we're looking at a new general manager, we don't have to agree to 6% because it's per our board agreement on that general manager's contract. We're not tied to 3% either. If the general manager wants to take the cash, as you state.
No, I didn't mean that.
I'm saying though, but it gives us actually flexibility. If that particular hire would say, I'll take a lower match and I will take a greater compensation, then that might give us the candidate we want. We're not tied to any number with this policy. Whereas if we say it's 3% to the general manager, that then ties us for the next candidate or next hire that is the number. And they're going to expect it. We don't have to give them any expectations now. We're free to negotiate to any terms because this says per the terms of the agreement we set with the general manager. So I think this gives us the greatest flexibility while also being compliant with having a policy that we follow, and it gives the community the expectations of what the exposure is. We have to present our contract of the general manager to the public, so there's no surprise to that. We know where that expenditure will come. And so that's why I support the policy. I think it's crafted around being flexible with the candidates we may have, and then also understanding that there is a back and forth that takes place with the general manager position being filled that does not take place with other staff.
Okay. So I understand the deferred matching program. I understand that it's a different tax structure. When I said give the interim general manager the money, it's in deferred. Just what's that number instead of it, changing our policy. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm not, it's not writing a check for, salary. It could be, but, I disagree with your, the way that, the former general manager didn't ask for it, or he's the one that threw the 3%, he just made it up at 3%. That's not my recollection at all. And certainly, if Mr. Mendoza wanted a 3% or 6% and wanted that, he would have asked for it, and we probably would have given it to him, but he didn't ask for it because we're a very small a district, and he knew that. So you're painting a picture that this was thrown at us earlier this year or late last year, that this was the former general manager's idea of deferred compensation, and that this number was just an arbitrary number that we just, general manager said 3%, we just said, okay, no, we deliberated at 3%. And we talked in depth about this. So anyway, okay, I just don't agree with the adding this sentence, and the sentence means that we're violating the sentences above it.
And my thing is taking a step back. I think this deserves 2 readings because of the comments that are coming up and how we're deliberating right now. I don't see why we want to just push this through, because there might be other people in the community who might want to speak as well.
If I could speak to that, I don't think a second reading is necessary because the position...
Our policy says second reading is on
Excuse me, I'm
resolutions.
speaking.
Yes, you are.
Thank you. Once again, I don't think it's necessary to have a second reading because this particular agreement has already come through 2 readings itself. The subject of this policy change is the general manager's contract, which has already been presented to the community twice. It's already out there. We've had speakers at this meeting and last meeting about this subject. So it's not that there haven't been 2 meetings where this subject hasn't been raised. It has. So it's not necessary to have a second reading for something that was discussed and agendized last month as well.
We have not discussed 2160. This is a new revision. Our policy says any revisions to our policies take 2 readings.
And again, I support that there is no second reading necessary. And I would follow the guidance of council that's given us that we can proceed without one.
Oh, we can. You're choosing to.
Yes,
But it's just
I am choosing
amazing
to.
how sometimes you're a stickler for policy, sometimes you're not. That's all.
Again, if you don't think there was enough discussion, I would question when you thought there should be additional discussion. There have been 2 meetings where we've had this discussion about this item.
Not
Yeah,
on
but not about changing our policy.
Exactly, not on this.
Yeah.
If you didn't understand that the policy would be changed by the last discussion, then
There's
I don't know
several
what more
ways
to
you can
say.
change this policy.
Okay.
This
Well,
is our attorney's opinion. This is a sentence to insert into our policy to be able to accept our interim general manager contract. This is an opinion from our attorney on how to, I guess, fix the situation. But I agree. I mean, we're changing our policy. When we added this, we had, how many readings did we have? At least 2. I mean,
Any further discussion? So I'd move that the Rossmoor Community Services District Board of Directors amend the deferred matching program of policy number 2160.41 by adopting the revisions provided by council.
I'll second.
And you know, President Searles, you should allow the board to bring a motion. You know, it's been a long-standing tradition on this board. I mean, you do it a lot where you do the motion. You should allow the members of your board to make the motion.
Thank you for the advice. With that, we have a roll call, please.
Can we get a roll call vote on the changes to policy 2160? Director Maynard?
No.
Director Shade?
Yes.
Director Remney?
Yes.
Director DeMarco?
No.
Director Searles?
Aye. Thank you. Moving on to item H, the interim general manager's report. Ms. Landers?
Yes, thank you. I want to start again by just saying that literally today we received the FEMA check. It's not in my notes, but I'm so proud. I had nothing to do with it. It's all the work, the hard work that had been done before I got here. But I know there was a question as to whether we get it, when we get it. It's just almost $20,000. It's just absolutely wonderful. So in addition to that, I want to mention that the Rossmoor Park Canopy project plans have been approved. To date, the canopy and frame has been ordered and received. Concrete, decorative trash cans, and picnic tables have been ordered and received. The frame arrived, unfortunately, damaged. So we're working with the manufacturer on replacement. I think they pick it up tomorrow, and they'll return it. The request for proposal for demolition installation is ready for publication. For safety reasons, the canopy installation is on hold until Camp Shark concludes on August 8th. So hopefully that will enable us to get the new frame without any problem. The new target date for completion is the end of August. And then Shark concludes on August 8th. I think I may have said that. On Saturday, June 7th, 2025, Rossmoor Community Service Districts, along with CRNR, hosted the Rossmoor Neighborhood Cleanup and Compost Giveaway event at the Rush Park from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. It was a very successful event. If I remember, I think Chris told me, I think he's gone now. I think he said something like almost 500 people attended that. Do you know the number? I think it was. Oh, okay. But it was well attended. On Saturday, June 14th, 2025 will be the first family festival to kick off the summer. The festival begins at 3 p.m. and ends at 8 p.m. The headliner band for June is a No Doubt cover band. Music will begin at approximately 6 p.m. Friday, June 20th, 2025, Rossmoor Community Service District will host Movie in the Park at Rush Park beginning at dusk. The featured presentation will be Sonic the Hedgehog 3. Shakespeare in the Park performances are coming up in Rush Park on Saturday, June 28th, Julius Caesar, and Sunday, June 29th, As You Like It, both beginning at 7 p.m. And then senior programming is being enhanced this summer. We talked about that with a series of UCI health lectures being held in the Rush Park Auditorium on June 12th. Abdominal hernia treatment on the 12th. June 24th will be overactive bladder. August 14th will be robotic surgery. August 28th, muscular degeneration. And September 11th, hip and knee replacement. And the lectures will begin at 9:30. And there are a little bit more detail of this on page 190, but we will come back if there's additional information we'll come back with the information at our next meeting, and I can have Chris here to present that if we need. Oh, it's not in my report. Okay. OCTA is going to have a town hall here at Rush Auditorium on Saturday to talk about their intersection project, I-605 and Patella.
This Saturday?
Excuse me?
This Saturday?
This Saturday, yes. So it is something that we've provided media information on. It's posted on our website, and we're doing that in conjunction with OCTA. Or they're doing it, but we're hosting the event here.
What time is that?
I think it's from 10 to 12. And that would conclude my report.
Director DeMarco, any comments or questions to Ms. Landers?
Carolyn, just in lieu of finding a solution for committees to report out, or maybe look into, and I don't know if this is possible, a live function on some of our social media platforms to where we can just set up. I don't know if it can work or not, but to me that would be the quickest and easiest way, because we've had, several people ask for. It's going to be easier on staff too, because, well, you could go back and take notes on it too, right? But it could be live, people could watch it, right? And remember how functional or how advanced our website was. Maybe we call them too about what other options they exist for live meetings or anything like that. Maybe they have modules or something like that. I don't know this, so back to the budget, and, there were things in this budget after reviewing it that we should have talked about in committee, but, I don't know if it's easily obtainable information, but the spread between property taxes from 3.2 to 9.2 is a pretty large spread, and it would be nice to just show the community, in the last, by year, what it's gone up. And, we always say that, you know what, we're conservative, we only do 3.5%, but, you know, I don't want people to say, well, you know, sometimes we get 9%, why aren't we asking, you know, why aren't we projecting 4 or 5? It would be nice that high number, what year was that high number, you know, and it's kind of skewed because the average is 4.37, but if it's easy, it would be nice to put in, I think, put in that, in our budget report. Ms. Landers, what are we estimating the cost is going to be to, for the grant consultant? Was that's in our budget, right? That's a line item? Remember?
I don't remember offhand. I believe he gets a set fee.
All
Yeah,
right.
I don't
I'll
know
email you.
offhand.
I'll email you.
I can
Yeah,
get that
or
information.
Josh may have it. I believe that. Any more notes? That's it. Thank you.
Director Renee, anything for Ms. Landers?
No questions, but I just want to say again, congratulations on that FEMA grant, because working with Cal OES and the requirements and the things you needed to do under deadline, amazing. You did a great job.
Director Shade?
I'm going to reiterate that as well. I've worked with grants myself. I was able to get one for our school district a couple of years back, and got our dance program a $20,000 grant that was phenomenal. It was during COVID, and I know how they work, and if you need any assistance on that, or let me know. I got people that work with me as well in the area. I want to say, thanks to Josh for his presentation that he did on our preliminary budget. That was phenomenal, and all the information that he got. He hasn't been here all that long, and he's really picked up on things really quickly. I appreciate his hard work.
We're sticking with Ms. Landers. Do you have anything
Yes,
for the
yes,
general
yes, yes.
manager? For
On her,
discussion?
I want to just mention that I want to thank you for joining us for our senior parade. I really appreciate our CSD support anytime they can show up, and I thought it was great having both of you, President Searles and our new GM. That was a lot of fun, and I thank the RHA for putting that on, and thank you very much.
Director Maynard, anything for Ms. Landers?
No, I don't have it.
All righty. Moving on, anything in addition? You good? All righty.
That's good.
Director Maynard, any particular items of your own from board members?
I do not have it.
All right, Director Shade, anything further as your board member comments?
No, I would say that's it. We're good.
Director Renee?
Didn't get a chance to talk about this at the last meeting, but I did want to bring a few comments to the forum, the CSDA Leadership Conference that I went to. It was paid for with a grant by CSDA, and per suggestion, I brought back a few of the pamphlets for the board, so I will leave those with you, General Manager Landers, for anyone that wants to look through those. The conference itself and the training that we received through the CSDA is it's a great thing that we have available to us and the resources that we have. So I fully support that and that everyone look at it. I believe these publications are also on the CSDA website.
Director DeMarco?
If we can't get CHP back next month, can we ask them for the report that they were going to give? Let's see, our summer programs are starting. Should be a lot of fun at Rush. Hopefully we get the folks out this year like we've had in the past. want to thank staff for all their hard work. And sorry that we're going to be losing one of our AV guys, but great job. Thanks a lot for this last year. And that's it.
Oh, I also wanted to say congratulations to the LaSalle class and all the other graduations that happened over the past week. Congratulations, class of 2025.
I want to wish a happy Pride Month to those who need and deserve recognition. I want to thank General Manager Joe Mendoza again. As Director DeMarco and many had suggested about honoring and celebrating Mr. Mendoza, he has respectfully communicated that he really loved his time here, but he doesn't want to come back to kind of interrupt the flow of the transition. But nonetheless, we did express our appreciation multiple times. And I would say so again and again. So thank you to Joe. Thanks to the RHA for coordinating an incredible grad parade. That was my first chance to participate in it, and it was a lot of fun. I know I'm probably about a third of the way to the amount of candy I should have bought. So next time I will have more. Hopefully I get another opportunity. And Mr. Smith, thank you for highlighting the OCTA and Caltrans and the 605 Catella project and where that's going. I would say to residents, Saturday, come here. I know some people will put out chairs under the trees early so they can have shade for the concert. It would be a good time to do both, is to drop off your chairs and then come in and find out what's going on at the 605 and Catella. So I hope residents will take advantage of that. Overall, we're going to have a lot of committee meetings hopefully coming up soon because we're kind of behind on some of those items, and then also for Ms. Landers to come up to speed with the agendas and what's been going on in our committee. So look for that, directors, as we move forward with those. Thanks to the attendees tonight and our speakers. It's greatly appreciated, both at tonight's meeting and also at our committee meetings. It genuinely is nice to have the input of the community. Agree, disagree, input matters, and very thankful for the discussions we can have with residents who are able to come. And last, I want to wish the best of luck to my friend, Rossmoor resident, UCLA baseball coach John Savage. They are playing this weekend in Omaha in the College World Series, and I had the pleasure of working for Coach Savage when I was in college, and even being a USC guy, I'm going to be rooting for him this weekend and hopefully next weekend. So with that, that is all I have. But yes, go UCLA. There's a little bit of a pause in there. Tarquin, anything?
Go Bruins.
All right, with that, I will, Ms. Vivanti, would you like to come to a mic? All right, perfect. 10 o'clock to noon on 10 to 11. Okay, thank you.
1 hour?
Mr. Smith? All right. All right, thank you. So that's a comment from resident that June 20th there will be a webinar, and we'll look to share that information as well. So, all righty. With that, we will adjourn. Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.